One time I took a class about childhood development, and the woman teaching it said something which really stuck with me. There's always so much pressure for parents about when their child will start walking, will start talking, will start using the potty. Do they take the first step at 6 months or at 18 months? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If your child is healthy, it will start doing all of these things sooner or later. Every child will start walking, will start talking, will start using the potty sooner or later, and take things at their own time. Some just need a little bit longer, and some do it really quickly. And this sentiment really stuck with me because you can pretty much apply this mindset not only to a child, but to essentially every chapter in your life. I think, especially as we get older, a lot of us are constantly haunted by the thought, I am behind in life. Everyone already has their career and their relationships, their interests, and their whole journey figured out. Society really pushed a certain timetable on us. We should graduate by this age, get your dream job by this age, buy a house at this, get married by then, have children until then. And maybe it's not just society. Maybe it's the people around you. Maybe it's your parents or family members constantly pushing you. So a lot of the times we don't even question this timeline, but just simply assume that it's true. So we punish ourselves when we don't fit into this whole construct. But the problem is that when we talk about this timeline, it would only be fair when we all start at the exact same line, when we are all offered the same opportunities and privileges. But obviously, we all start at completely different points, just starting by the family we are born into or the country we are born into. How prepared are your parents to have you? Are they loving? Do they treat you badly, or do they give their best to raise you? Are you born in California or a small village somewhere in China? Which privileges does your country offer you right away? Do you need to work from an early age on to support yourself and your family, or do you have the freedom to get an education? So many points which make an extreme difference. When you have a really difficult childhood, you might not even have the resources to develop healthy habits. You can't go out and play and live carefree years, but rather fight through trauma or sadness that surely you won't know how to handle. So this most likely will result in difficult coping mechanisms or mental health issues later on. A lot of us sadly come from bad households where we don't feel safe. So you might not be able to focus on school and homework. So you get bad grades and don't focus on your education. When you don't have adults in your life to protect you, you don't have the privilege of taking care of yourself because you simply have to fight every day with the mind of a child, which is a very, very hard thing to do because you should not be dealing with these emotions or situation at that time. So what do? When you leave school, all bad grades, no way you'll be able to go to college, for example. Not because you're stupid or unqualified, but because your mind was busy fighting for survival and had no room for math equations. And of course, you look at everyone around you who flew through school so easily, now off to study even more. Good chance you will feel like a failure. And sometimes it's difficult to see that this situation you find yourself in has very little to do with the person that you are, but with the way that you had to grow up. So you aren't behind in life. You are just living your own life with your own timeline, your own challenges, and your own battles. There's nothing realistic or fair about comparing yourself to people around you. And let's be honest, even when you don't grow up in hardship, life is so strange. Life is so fucking strange. It is such a strange concept that we are born into, and it takes so long to adjust to this weird world, to this weird humanity with all of our good quirks and awful ways. Life throws different challenges at us, and we It just in different ways. We have different goals and different things we want to reach. When I was younger, I always thought that adulthood would feel settled. You'd feel secure and stable all the time. But surprise, it's everything but that. Life constantly throws jabs at you. You might get a little bit more secure within yourself the older you get, but the journey of your life doesn't. And so it's completely wrong to see life as a race to reach everything you want by a certain age. How boring would that be, really? If you truly get everything you ever asked for and you wouldn't need to work for anything anymore. If you'd stop evolving and stop growing, you'd be stuck at that place for the rest of your life. Life so often feels uncomfortable because we are growing, and growing isn't fun. It makes your muscles ache and might leave you sleepless, but it needs to happen. So, stop trying to exhaust yourself by working yourself to the bone and talking down on yourself because you think that you are way behind everyone else, because you have such a long life to live. You have so much time to figure yourself out and to figure out what you want. I think that's also a huge misconception, for me at least, when I really sit with myself and with my feelings of being behind. When I get to the bottom of it, I think it doesn't have that much to do with truly feeling behind, but more with the feeling of not knowing what I want to do with life, the feeling of being lost. Because we all love the act of pretending that we have our life figured out, especially people on social media. We so often think that we are the only ones who don't know what they're doing. But I'm pretty sure so many of us, even the ones who seem so successful or put together, have those insecurities. Because once again, life is strange and we are so often more similar than we think we are. Again, when I was a teenager, I thought it would all get easier when I was an adult. As a teenager, that's a thought that kept me going. I'd have a relationship, a job, money, and a house. Lacking in many areas there, but I do have a relationship and I do have a job. But for example, I just realized after spending many years studying that I hate my degree and I hate my job. Before starting university, I had this idea that after I graduated, I'd be so much happier. And now, several years later, I'm faced with the challenge of what do I do when I realize I've spent a shit ton, not only of money, but also of my time on my education to get a good degree that is already making me very depressed and probably will lead to burnout by the age of 30. And there's honestly a lot of anxiety that came with this realization, but I can also flip it around and try to make something good out of it instead of talking down on myself, because at the end of the day, I can't change anything about it. I learned something new about myself. I have grown through my decisions and my realizations, and that's a good thing, right? I can take my learnings and make something better out of it. I wouldn't have known this 5 years ago because I thought that this degree and this job would be the absolute right path for me. It took my degree and working in that field to realize all of these things. So I could be absolutely devastated, and not saying that I'm not pretending like I'm not. Sometimes I might make this sound a lot easier than it is in reality, but I could really dwell on the feelings of being behind because it feels like everyone else who finished their degree now stepped out of that time with love and happiness and the ability to work in a field they enjoy. And I feel like I took a million steps back and have to start all over again. But what can I do? This is just life. There are no milestones you have to reach by this or that age. It's growing older, having experiences, and navigating life through constant uncertainty. When you're young, you know so little about yourself and the world. It takes so long until you get even like a tad comfortable living in your own skin. You get to reinvent yourself through your whole lifespan, and that's the whole point, right? Starting over every single day, learning and living and constantly reinventing yourself. You are absolutely allowed to realize that you hate your degree, to change it, to start over, to end relationships and friendships, to completely reinvent yourself at 30 or at 60 or at 80. There's absolutely no use in figuring everything out in your teens or your 20s. So never feel like you are behind in life. Stop chasing someone else's timeline because otherwise you will never arrive in your own. Try to find meaning in your own ways. You know, the waiting, the uncertainty, the failures, all of the quiet seasons. You are already living the story that you'll one day want to remember. Maybe that's what my teacher was trying to say those years ago. We never look at a child who's learning to walk and wonder why they're taking so long. We celebrate every small step because we understand they're becoming who they're meant to become. Try to give yourself that same kindness because that child is also still in you. We are all still learning, no matter what our age is. Always still growing, still becoming. So keep celebrating your first steps in every new direction you step in.